Hey, hi everyone. My name is Nzinga Oniwasan. I am the founder of Yes Baby I Like It Raw at 365 Zing. And our focus is helping you have sustainable practices when it comes to your wellness. And today's session is why do we detox, fast, and cleanse? Right now, there's a big propaganda where people say that it's invalid, that it's a waste of time. And I think it's really important for us to distinguish between gimmicks and things that our ancestors have been doing for a long time. And detoxing, fasting, and cleansing have been a process that we've used for centuries to allow us to reinvigorate our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. So I want to share my story. Then I want you to do a check-in so I can kind of get a sense of who you are. Again, my name's Nzinga. I'm Haitian American. And how I started this journey towards wellness was not because I was a beam of health. I came into this journey because I struggled a lot with disease. When I was 11 years old, I was actually pre-hypertensive. I was suffering from childhood obesity. I actually had to have clothes made for me because my mom found it really difficult for me to find clothes in my size. Not only that, shortly afterwards, I got diagnosed with a brain tumor, specifically a prolactinoma, which is a pituitary tumor, PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome, as well as an autoimmune disorder called scleroderma. And when I was being diagnosed left and right with these different things, I was always told that there was nothing I could do but be medicated. And it's not to say that there's not a time and place for that, but I always felt in my heart of hearts, even when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, that there had to be a different way. And I had a bit of that exposure as I was being challenged with my disease as it was presenting. And one of the first things that my Haitian grandmother did was she had me do a cleanse. One of the symptoms of my autoimmune disorder is that I get scars on my body. They just pop out of nowhere, or what we would call hyperpigmentation. You can kind of see it here. It's not noticeable because of where it falls. Here's another spot from my autoimmune. And my grandmother, when she saw these spots around, spreading throughout my body, her first thing was like, oh, those are toxins showing up in her skin. Let's do a cleanse. That cleanse looks a lot different than what we're getting ready to do with our 21-day reset starting tomorrow. It looked like me drinking castor oil and coffee all combined, and I definitely lost a lot of weight. And some symptoms actually went away, some of the things that I was struggling with, particularly like things like my allergies at that time. I probably needed to do it a little bit longer in hindsight, but that was the first time I started to become aware of the power of a detox, cleanse, or fast. Fast forward, I decided I wanted to explore holistic practices when it came to approaching my diagnosis. And so what happened was I fell on some holistic books. And when I looked at the holistic practices, one of the things that came to mind was that I needed to detox, cleanse, and fast. And when I started to do those things, a lot of the symptoms that I was being presented with and challenged with actually went away. And I was a bit joyous, but also upset because I felt like I had been suffering for so long. And all of a sudden there was something, and I wouldn't say that detoxing, cleansing, and fasting, the way I approached it was the easiest, but the reward of it was so fascinating. I then started to go into being an apprentice, learning about holistic medicine. And here we are today, where I really truly believe one of the ways that we can address some of the things that we're dealing with is through a detox, cleanse, and fast. So that's my story. That's how we're here. And I would love to have everyone give us a check-in. Where are you from? What do you know of a detox, cleanse, or fast? And have you ever done a detox, cleanse, or fast before? And do you feel like that's something that resonates with you right now? anyone can go. And again, you can always say something in the chat if that's more preferable and you don't necessarily have an environment that allows you to speak comfortably.
All right, so I'll start. I'm April. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I've done a detox, but I've never been successful because my cravings are ginormous. So I've never completed a detox. I may have drank the juice once and then ended with a taco, for the day. So just really trying to be disciplined. And I also have an autoimmune disease. I have lupus, SLE, that I've been able to maintain, but flares are just getting overwhelming and want a healthier life. So I follow you forever. So here I am.
Thank you. It's nice to see you. Anyone else like to speak? Paula and Gigi are here with us, and I know if they've done this program before. I don't know if they're just tuning in right now. If you're not able to speak, you can always say something in the chat. Okay, all right. Okay, so Gigi says hello to everyone. She's in the commute, but she's also done a 21-day detox with myself, and it was super helpful. And so how do you know? So I'm so excited to have all of you here with me. I'm also recording this for those who cannot join us. Let me just make sure. So let's talk about, a lot of times when we talk about detox, cleanse, and fasting, we never, ever talk about signs that you probably need to detox. So I'm going to start there instead of going straight into what is a cleanse, a detox, and fast. Oh, and Gigi just added, it cleared up her skin, energy increased, and improved her sleep as well as her hair. Shout out to all of those beautiful outcomes. Okay, so here we are. We want to talk about a cleanse and detox and fast, but we often don't know when or why we need it. Oftentimes, we would say that you want to have a detox, fast, or cleanse is when you have what we call like a toxin overload. And those symptoms typically are fatigue, more fatigue than normal. Obviously, if you're not getting adequate amount of rest, you're going to be tired. But it's just a rest that you can never be satisfied with, right? Like no matter what you do, even if you take naps, you still feel very lethargic. Another symptom for toxic overload, and probably maybe you need to take a cleanse, detox, or fast, is actually headaches. I, prior to going down this route, suffered so much from migraines, debilitating migraines, to the point when they would come on, I would drop to the ground and would have to have someone carry me because they were so debilitating. And once I started to get on a regimen where I cleansed, detoxed, and fasted on a regular basis, I was able to say I've pretty much been relatively migraine free. The only other X factor is stress. And we're going to talk about, when we do these processes, we're not just talking about our physical body, but we're also talking about our mental and spiritual self as well. Other things that you may experience is joint pain. You might have aches that you can't explain. You may also have a lot of bloating, constipation, discomfort when it comes to your bowel. And then it can also affect your emotions. Things like depression and anxiety can be related to that toxic overload. Not to say that that is the why, but oftentimes when people do a detox, cleanse, and or fast, they report having better feelings about what's going on, and they're able to process things a little bit better. Another sign of a toxic overload is your body odor. And I know everyone, and when I say odor not just from like breath, your breath doesn't smell as pleasant as you wanted to do. You definitely don't want to leave the house without deodorant. And oh gosh, if you had a number 2, you're not going to let anyone follow you into the restroom because you're too embarrassed about what it smells like. Those are typically really great indicators that maybe it's time for us to have a cleanse, detox, and or fast. All right. So how many of you have experienced any of those symptoms or experiencing those symptoms now? I personally know that I was feeling a bit lethargic, and I've been experiencing some discomfort when it comes to my bowels. And always an indicator for me is I get funky. I'm like, oh, it's time to do my cleanse. The funk is here. We want the funk to go away. Anyone else experiencing some things that right now that make you feel like it's definitely time to do a cleanse, detox, and or fast? I know I'm asking for vulnerability right now, but I was vulnerable first. Okay, so what do you do when you have those symptoms? Also, let me say this. Oftentimes when we are presented with pre-diabetes, okay, someone said fatigue and headaches for them. Oftentimes when we have been diagnosed with a disease or the approaching of a disease, for instance, pre-hypertension, you're pre-hypertensive, you're pre-diabetic, those things can almost always be reversed. Even when you're fully on through a detox, cleanse, and fast process. And they're often symptoms of a toxic overload as well. When we think about hypertension, it relates to our blood, and if our blood is not if it's super thick, then our heart needs to pump a bit more to push that blood through. And oftentimes it can be thick because we have things, it's just a lot more sluggish because of things being there that need to be taken out. So that's why we obviously don't want to have these symptoms all the time. We aren't good. We're not our best versions of ourselves when we don't feel good. And there's tons of ways for us to approach healing from these things, and they might be simpler than others. One, you can drink more water. I think we really take for granted how much water has a detoxifying effect on the body. And it's because it supports our body's natural detoxifying organs. And so that's going to get into the first thing in terms of like, what's the difference between a detox, a cleanse, and a fast? Oftentimes we hear those words and they're used interchangeably, but they don't mean the same thing. They don't break down to the same thing when you talk to a practitioner like myself. So a detox is when you support your body's natural toxin eliminating process. So that's where the argument of like, oh, you don't need to detox, your body does it all the time. But there's an assumption that our body doesn't have a toxic overload. And the reality is, in the world that we live in, we're constantly bombarded with toxins through the foods that we eat, through the air that we breathe, through the water that we drink and bathe with, the products we use in our hair. So, if we were living in an ideal situation, we can rely on our organs to do what they need to do on their own. However, because we exist in the world that we exist in, we need to support our body in that process. So again, I'm going to define what a detox is. A detox is your body's natural toxin eliminating process. It involves two organs. And so I'm going to do my game. Some of us might know the answer. What two organs do we know are explicitly mainly used to filter and excrete waste? So again, keyword is filter and excrete. What organs help us to filter and excrete waste? There's two organs that we specifically talk about when we detox. Anyone want to take a guess? There we go. DG throughout liver. Ding, ding, ding. Kiss the brain. I do this for my children. The liver is definitely a detoxifier. And there we go. Miss McGee also said kidneys as well, kidneys and liver. So our kidneys and our liver are the organs that support our filtering and our excreting of waste from the body. That's why they take a hit when we drink. All right. Yes, maybe I like it raw. We're going to keep it raw because alcohol is actually a poison to our body. And so when we're exposing our bodies to it, it's trying to flush it out. And because of the conditions that we're currently in due to this pandemic, a lot of us have been leaning in on drinking to help us move through our emotions. And we've seen more cases of liver disease and our liver failure as a result of this excess drinking because these organs can be taxed. You know, so many of us know people who have who are on dialysis, who have liver issues, and all of it. When these organs start to fail, that becomes so problematic for our overall health because we just said these are the things that filter the toxins out of our body. Okay? And so through a detox, we support them, we strengthen them, we tone them, we nurture them through foods and herbs. Some foods that we use for that can be detoxifying are lemon, hence why we talk about having that lemon water first thing in the morning. Garlic is also really powerful to supporting the liver and the kidneys. Believe it or not, kale is too. In addition to kale, we have pineapple and ginger. So all of these foods can help us detox or support our detoxifying organs, our liver and our kidneys on a regular basis. All right. I hope you're taking notes because we're going to talk about when should you cleanse, detox, or fast. And we can always be having little actions on a daily basis that support us in that way. And then we have these moments that we pull out and we are more intentional with how we cleanse, detox, and fast. Does anyone have any questions before I move on to what a cleanse is, right? So we have a sense of what a detox is, and now we're going to talk about what a cleanse is. But before I go to that, I just want to make sure there's no questions about a cleanse, or I mean a detox. Okay, so a cleanse is a way to clean our colon, all right? It focuses on our digestive tract and eliminating waste from our colon. So when we say removing waste, we're talking about the removal of toxins, fecal matter, parasites, and even fungus. Yeah, that's right, even fungus. And so with a cleanse, we're really focusing in on having those bowel movements. Not to say that on a detox, you're not going to have an increase in bowel movements, but typically with a detox, you'll see an increase in your urination. So if you've ever been on a program before and you're like, oh my God, I can't stop going to the restroom, I can't stop urinating, it's probably because you're taking herbs that are supporting that filtration through the kidneys, all right? Whereas a cleanse is let's get rid of that waste. Let's get rid of those parasites. Let's get rid of the constipation that you have. Oftentimes with a cleanse, you're going to eat a lot lighter, and you're going to eat foods that aren't irritating so that you can help to speed up digestion. Oftentimes when you're doing a cleanse, is because we've noticed a significant change in our bowel movement. So if you are not having a regular bowel movement, what's a regular bowel movement? Daily. If you're not having a daily bowel movement, then you would be considered someone who would need to do a cleanse because our bowel movements are so important for our overall health. And certain types of issues can arise when we're not having regular bowel movements. And so one of particular things like colon cancer can be related to our lack of having enough bowel movement. So Again, a detox focuses on supporting our body's natural toxin eliminating organ, our liver and our kidney. Our cleanse focuses in on the colon. How do we get this waste out? How do we get the parasites out? And that's a conversation in itself right now. It's kind of going viral. Everyone's doing a parasite cleanse, but parasites are real. And they're not just exclusive to people who eat meat. Parasites exist in people who also are vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian. Parasites are everywhere. And so and they can be getting in the way of certain things. Like parasites are notorious for having certain people have anemia. And so you could be doing the best you can, taking your supplements, getting your leafy greens in, and you're still like, yo, I'm still anemic. It may not be what you're doing. It might be your friends and what they're doing. All right. Last but not least is a fast. So a fast is typically a discontinuance of a single food or all foods and liquids for an extended period of time. So typically when we hear the word fast, think water fast, juice fast, Daniel fast. You're eliminating something. It might be one thing, it might be several things for an extended period of time. Typically for a fast, it helps to eliminate a lot of toxins. No matter which one you do, there's going to be some toxins that are going to be eliminated. And oftentimes when we look at a fast is really, it can fall under a detox or a cleanse. Typically, when you're doing a detox, we'll probably say do a juice fast so that you can really support your liver and your kidneys by way of the fruits and vegetables and herbs that you're juicing. With a cleanse, we're typically going to take away a lot of food so that we can move those bowels. Typically, it might be some raw foods and things like that. And so you eliminate. The elimination with a raw vegan cleanse is that you are eliminating all cooked foods. So that's what the difference is. And again, we use these terms interchangeably, but they don't mean the same thing. A fast just means you're stopping, you're getting rid of one or several things. A detox is when you focus in on supporting your liver and kidneys and what they do best, filter and excrete. A cleanse is when you focus on your colon and you're eliminating certain things that don't allow your digestive system to do what it needs to do. So you're trying to speed your digestive system up by giving it a break. By giving it a break, it can get rid of that excess waste that's piled up, and you're able to feel a lot better. And typically the cleanse is where you see a lot of weight loss, because it's not weight loss, it's actually waste loss. And sometimes we feel like the protrusion, the belly that we have is because we quote unquote have fat around our sides, but sometimes our belly is sticking out because we have a buildup of waste. And typically with a cleanse is where you see that drastic shift in how far that stomach may poke out. Any questions about these three things? Did everyone know about the differences between a fast, a detox, and a cleanse?
I didn't.
You think that would have supported you a bit more, April, when you were trying to approach it a little bit more?
No, I don't think so. My problem is to coming to my habits, just not being disciplined.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. A lot of times, and I used to be this person, we go into a fast, detox, or cleanse cold turkey. And that is the hardest approach. It's not a sustainable approach. The success rate is much lower when we take that approach. And one of the things that I used to be that person. I say like, okay, go off for 2 weeks. I'll see you in 2 weeks, and let's see what sticks, and then we'll start to do the healing work. No meal plan, no shopping list. Here's your herbs. See you in 2 weeks. And people struggled because they didn't segue into it. The day before, they were eating a certain way, and the next day, I'm expecting them to eat a different way without any support. And I just know when I started to detox and fast on a regular basis, I remember just doing a juice fast, and like the day before, I had fried chicken and French fries and things like that, and my body was just like, what in the world are you doing? And so one of the things I recommend if you should decide to detox, fast, or cleanse is to gently segue in and then gently segue out, right? So how you start, you need to start slow and then come back to whatever your regular diet may be slowly as well. And so what that means is you start to begin a fast, all right? So you start to eliminate certain things on the front end. It doesn't have to be everything all at once. And one of the things that we do in the 21-day reset is we do it meal by meal, right? Like, because the part of this is like getting your mind right. And I think now more than ever, because of all the things that we're being confronted with, we still haven't had an opportunity to process this ongoing pandemic. It's just really hard to do good by ourselves, right? We haven't had time to really mourn what we had as an existence 2.5 years ago. And we're a lot of us are really in survival mode, whether or not we want to admit it. So it doesn't make sense to go cold turkey. Some people can do cold turkey, everyone can't. So what I suggest is, go from, if you are someone who is a omnivore, start to remove the meat from your diet, go vegan for a day or two, then move into whatever the protocol is, be it a raw vegan diet. And then if you're going into a juice fast, I would be raw. Then I go down to mono meals, maybe fruits only. Then I would go into my juice. And then if I'm going to do a water fast, I'm going to juice a couple of days, a day or two before I jump into a water fast. Because a water fast is a hard stop. And some people also do what's called a dry fast. So a dry fast is when you have nothing. You're just living off what already exists in your body. So there's different types of fasts. Let me break that down. So you have your dry fast. A dry fast is when you exclusively and only have air. You a lot of times when people do a dry fast, they don't even take supplements. They just know that the body's going to start kicking in and doing what it does. Exactly, Gigi, a dry fast. Some of us have done a dry fast, right? We just haven't done it for days. We've done it for hours, right? So you can think about, for those of you who have a religious background, have you not fasted and prayed before? When we fast and pray, typically it's a dry fast, right? We're not sipping on water or tea. We don't eat anything until that prayer time is over. And then we have whatever we're going to have. So Ramadan has like an element of dry fasting where they don't have anything until the end of the day, right? So then the next type of fast, since we're breaking fast down, like we're going to break a fast down, is a water fast. A water fast is when you exclusively and only drink water. There are some variations with a water fast. You may have a water fast where you are allowed to have tea, but that tea, you're not adding honey, agave, maple syrup. It's just straight tea like I'm having right now. There are some people who, there's a variation, like there's a variant of a water fast. It's called the Master Cleanse. And it's predominantly water, but that water has maple syrup, lemon, cayenne added to it. And that's the only thing you drink. And then you have teas, and I should say you also have teas throughout the day to support you. And then you have some salt water. That's oftentimes like in that water fast area. That's when you start to have Epsom salt in your water, which is going to quickly flush out your system. But you have to be careful with that, especially if you're a sweater, because it can really throw off your potassium sodium balance. Then you have your juice fast. Your juice fast is when you only have juice. You're juicing fresh juice every day. So you're not going to have processed juice that's been sitting at the supermarket for extended periods of time. And you can do a juice fast with a juicer or even a blender. FYI, if you want to make juice with your blender, you add water, you put all the ingredients in there, and then after you blend it out, you strain it, and whoop, there it is, you got juice. Just in case you don't have to necessarily make a new investment in terms of a blender. All right. You also have a smoothie fast, where the only thing that you have is smoothies. And then sometimes you might have a fruit fast. A fruit fast is where the only thing you eat is fruit. You don't eat leafy greens. You don't eat any vegetables. The only thing you have is fruit. You also have a raw vegan fast. And during a raw vegan fast, you would have a lot of the things I just mentioned. You'll have juices, you'll have smoothies, you'll have a lot of uncooked meals. And with a raw vegan fast, you'll have things that are a little bit more fancier than just a plate of fruit. You might be able to manipulate the food in such a way that it looks very familiar. So for instance, I make a raw vegan lasagna by cutting up certain things and blending and chopping and seasoning them together. And it reminds me of what its cooked counterpart looks like. For some people, a fast could simply just be being vegetarian, or it's never vegetarian, to be quite honest, is being vegan for an extended period can also have a healing effect on the body, particularly if you're eating whole foods plant-based. You are taking teas during all of that time. You're taking teas, herbal teas that strengthen the liver and kidneys, help the filters waste out, and certain teas and roots that also help to move your bowel. Any questions based on what I just mentioned here? It's a lot, right? Dry fast, boy, I tell you. Dry fast is super, it's all about the mind at that point. Like, you might be tempted because you may live with other people and they're eating and you're just there sipping on air. Oh, this air tastes so good. Typically with these fasts, in terms of movement, a dry fast, you're not going to be working out like you normally do, neither a water fast. Sometimes people have ebbs and flows with their energy where they can find a workout, but you usually want to do something still like yoga during your fast. If you're going to work out, you want to continue something that you've been doing, but not necessarily starting some hardcore workout. Like, you don't want to start a CrossFit workout while you are detoxing, cleansing, or fasting, because your body is not going to be necessarily moving at the same rate to adapt. But you could start a yoga practice. One of the things I've done in the past is I've had clients do like 30 days raw. It used to be one of my programs. I need to bring that up back. It's great. 30 days raw, and they also were going to hot yoga, and they saw a powerful transition in their body and how they felt in the insomnia they were dealing with. Any questions? Dr. Gigi's like, oh, not an air sandwich. Yes, an air sandwich with the dry fast. With the dry fast, usually it's like 3 to 7 days. Some people go beyond. Even with juice fasting, you could do 3 days and feel really good. Some people do 7, some people do 21, even beyond that. I was raw. I was living fully raw for 7 months. But at that point, it wasn't just me doing a cleanse. It was just a way of life. But then when I would go into the periods when I would cleanse and detox deeper, then I would shift how I was eating food, which brings me to my other point. So you can do simple things to support detoxification and cleansing throughout your daily life. However, our ancestors always had a period of time where they would focus in and go deep. And that was typically during the solstice for the equinox. And so what I'm referring to is the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the fall equinox, as well as the winter solstice. So the spring equinox typically happens around March 21st. And what happens during that time, the energy of the spring equinox, it's a time for restoration and rebirth. And during that time, the organs that are active are the gallbladder and liver. So if you were to focus in on one thing during the spring equinox, you would probably want to do a detox. Because again, I just mentioned the liver as one of the organs, and the gallbladder and the liver work in tandem. So you definitely know that's the time that you want to drink your dandelion tea, get your lemon. This might be a time you're going to do a juice fast. You could juice dandelion. It's super bitter, but it's super good for you. Then we have our summer solstice, which is coming up. That's why we're doing the summer reset. Our summer reset actually brings you into your summer solstice. And during the summer solstice, it's a season of growth and maturation. There's two parts to the summer, however. There's the early part, and the organs that we hone in at that time are our heart and our intestines. And then late summer, we start to focus on our stomach and our small intestines. And so this would be a time that we want to cleanse. This is a time where we want to get the waste out. We want to get the parasites out. We do not want to coexist with them anymore. Then we have our fall equinox. Our fall equinox is around September 23rd. And that's a time for you to really tune in. The organs active during that time are our lungs and our large intestines. And it's actually a time that we start to prepare for the winter. And so this is a time that you would, again, focus on cleansing. If you had to do one thing, it's not that you can't do a detox too, but you want to make sure that you're going to cleanse during that time. Last but not least is our winter solstice, which is typically around December 21st. And this is a time where we have a climax in our spiritual power. And the organs that are active during this time are our bladder and our kidneys. And this is typically a time that we want to detox. And when we start to look at different practices throughout the world, those practices were built on, right? Typically when we started to go back to school was during the season change, right? And so many of us have these stories, if we're old enough, where we had a washout. If you're not old enough and you talk to your grandma, to your mother, they'll say that, yeah, grandma, auntie, or whoever would make sure we would take the cod liver oil or the castor oil or something, and we had to stay in the house because we needed to get out all the stuff that had built up over that time. And typically when you would get that cod liver oil is right before you go to school. And that's the fall equinox where I said we want to focus in on cleansing. So those are the major times where you want to do that 7-day, 14-day, 21-day, 40-day something, right? However, you can still practice the ABCs. Always be cleaning, right? And so you can detoxify throughout your daily life through several ways. One, through your mouth. You can use things like oil swishing, where you take coconut oil and you place it in your mouth and you swish up to 20 minutes. When you first start, it can feel really like, oh my God, what am I doing? 20 minutes? This is absolutely absurd. But over time, you'll feel such a difference, particularly if you're someone who has bleeding gums and gingivitis and things like that. Oil swishing can be a great remedy. It also is great for whitening your teeth and making your breath smell fabuloso, okay? Other things that you can do to support your everyday detox cleanse process is to body brush. And these are some of the things that we do during our program. We incorporate first week. Body brushing is to support your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system is the waste company of your body. There's certain places where it's really concentrated, like our chest area, our armpits, throat, around the waist and things like that. And essentially, the challenge with our lymphatic system is it's really good at picking things up, but it's not really good at taking them out. It needs us to work with it. And one of the ways that we support the excretion of these toxins is by way of movement or processes like body brushing. So this is my body brush. There's different kinds. You could just use a regular body brush or a loofah. And essentially what you do is before you shower or when your skin is dry, you're going to brush your body from the bottom of your feet up towards your heart. So all the movement is towards your heart, towards your heart, towards your heart. And that you do that daily. And typically the question is, well, how do I know I have issues with my lymphatic system? Cellulite is actually an indicator that you have lymphatic blockage. And that's why if you notice, if you are familiar with body brushing, they'll say that you'll see a reduction in cellulite. And that's because we're breaking up the stuff that's in there so it can get out. What's really important, however, is you break it up, you got to excrete it out. You're not necessarily going to excrete it out through your bowels. You're going to excrete it out through your kidneys. And so again, I cannot reiterate, another way that you can help to detox your body is drinking water. Drinking water. Now, that can be a little questionable because we have compromised water system. So you just want to make sure that you have a really good filtration system at your home, or you have a company that you trust, that you know that's going to not give you water that's contaminated, and that water is going to help filter things out. Another way that you can do it is through clay. So that'll help, particularly clay in areas where you have a lot of lymph. So armpits, if you have armpits that are a little less pleasant than you want them to be when you're not wearing deodorant, a great way to clean that area up is to do a clay mask. And that doesn't just have to happen here. When you're putting clay on your face, you're drawing stuff out. So you can also place that on your abdomen. You can even do a full body clay day, like as your self-care day. Other things that you can do is a ionic foot bath, which is crazy if you've ever done it. Has anyone ever done ionic foot bath? Let me see if there's hands. Ionic foot bath is where you place your feet in this container, and it is, the water becomes charged and it pulls toxins out through your feet. So you have this beautiful, lovely, clear water that may end up looking like this, literally like this, right? And typically, if you have a good reader, they will let you know the color of the water can let them know what's going on with you internally. And it's one of those things that we recommend while you're doing a cleanse, do these things as well. Another way that, hold on, yes, so you can do that. Salt is also, yep, I'm answering that question. Salt is another great way to cleanse the body and remove toxins inside and out. All right. So one of the ways that people do it is they take salt and they put it in the water, more concentrated amount of salt in the water, and it's gonna force a bowel movement like you never had before. I don't typically recommend that because, again, there's a fine line with your potassium sodium pump. If you understand anatomy and physiology, our cells run this is really narrow ratio. Some people can do it, it works well. I'm always concerned with people who are constantly in like hot yoga classes and things like that doing it, because they're always eliminating minerals and things in excess as well. And I just remember someone I knew who was doing a lot of hot yoga, and they tried to do it and they had no response. And I'm like, you just threw all this salt in your body. Wait a second. Another way you can pull stuff out by way of your skin is through baths. Epsom salt baths, mineral salt baths. There's different salts out there. Oftentimes we only talk about Epsom salt, but even Himalayan sea salt can be placed in your bath. You can put some herbs in there as well, and soak. During this cleanse, fast, detox, it's a great time to incorporate some of these things. I know some of us don't often have access to tubs. But if you can find somewhere where you can go to do it, this would be a great time to like let some of that stuff pour out. Or you could just simply do your feet. Get a nice little foot bucket, put your Epsom salt in there, and it will draw stuff out. It's just so amazing how much can be pulled out by way of the feet. They also have some detox. I've done this before. I've done so many things. They have these detox strips that you put on your feet that pull things out. That's a little crazy as well. That's a little crazy as well. It's based on Chinese medicine. And so there's this foot toxin eliminator. Another thing that you can do to support cleansing, detoxing, it specifically lymph, is to jump on a rebounder. It's a great way to move the lymph and get the stuff out. Moving is a great way to eliminate waste from your body. Walking, we take walking for granted. You don't need to run. You could just walk, and that's going to get things moving. Or just jump around, dance and jump, and just shaking. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to do some shaking and dancing to help move the lymph out. And so that's another great way that you can cleanse and detox as well. I'm trying to see. Essential oils can be very helpful as well. Chlorophyll in our water is really great. Detoxifier, if you have it on a regular basis, you'll notice a big shift in the odor from your bowel movements as well as your armpits. And don't sleep on your lemon, key lime, or lime in your water. That also supports your detox.
This is Velda. Yes. Sorry to interrupt, but can you expound a little bit on the chlorophyll? My girlfriend and I were just talking about that before this call, and I just wasn't familiar with that.
Yeah, so we have, let me grab my chlorophyll so you can see. Chlorophyll, where's my chlorophyll? I just put it in my water. There we go. I'll be right there. I just need to fill my glass with water. Any other questions while I do my chlorophyll demo? Okay.
I don't have other questions, but we did for the first time about a week ago do a foot detox, and I can definitely say it was amazing. It was like, wow,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you do the ionic foot bath?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And so usually you can do that. It's a great time to do it when you're doing a detox or fast. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have your water, and I have a concentrated version of liquid chlorophyll. If you have a bigger jar, it's typically not concentrated, and you would add it to your water. You can't see what I'm doing. You would add it to your water, and it's going to turn your water green. Sorry about that. Okay. And I didn't put a lot in just now. And you would drink that. You can drink that throughout the day. It's really good for energy as well. It's great for detoxifying the body. So chlorophyll is what makes plants green, and it's really good for helping the body to oxygenate. And by oxygenating, you're also able to eliminate a lot of things like free radicals. So a lot of people swear that chlorophyll is why they don't need to wear deodorant anymore. They see a big shift in their bowel movement. So it's considered like an internal deodorizer. Okay. Other things that you can do, and I often don't talk about, is you can do an enema. And that's when you self-administer water into your rectum to go into your intestines, and you hold it for a period of time, and then you go sit on the toilet, and a lot of waste comes out. Or you can do a colonic irrigation. And that's where you will go to a colon therapist, and they would then, it's way more water. I could show my enema bag, but you don't need to see that. With the colon irrigation, it's a lot more water, and it goes a lot deeper than an enema can, because enema is limited by the size of the bag. And that can be really helpful if you're someone who has like a lot of constipation. You probably want to do that, or even someone who has parasites. But again, you want to make sure you're pairing it. And the great time to do it is when you're on a cleanse or detox, because you're preparing your body from the inside out to eliminate that excess waste. Let me see if I'm missing anything else. And those are like some of the main ways that we detox, cleanse, and fast. Any questions? Okay. So we're getting ready to start our 21-day summer reset tomorrow. And the way our program works is we segue you in. We don't do any hardcore shifts, because we know life is constantly happening, and we want you to be able to do this and still be able to exist in the real world. So the way it works is week 1, we just change our breakfast. We're going to use green smoothies. Green smoothies are another great way to both detox and cleanse the body, specifically when you use certain fruits or vegetables in there. And so that's the only first change in terms of diet. The other thing, nope, that's not true. You're going to increase your water, and you're going to start to eliminate caffeine. By the end of the week, the goal is to have caffeine completely eliminated. We're also going to start to incorporate our body brushing, our tongue scrape.
Wait. Is coffee caffeinated?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to do that.
I have so many people. Who are like, wait, what you mean coffee? But at the end of it, they're surprised. And there's some coffee alternatives. I have relationships with companies that make coffee alternatives. So you're going to get, if you need to have an alternative, I can send you a discount code, and they ship really fast. They just shipped me some tea today. So
no, I think I can do it. Okay, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're fine. This is the time. So in the beginning, it sounds really it sounds really overwhelming, but the truth is, this is my personal opinion. Coffee is anti-self-care, particularly in the way that we approach it. And this is why I'm saying it. A lot of times we're tired because we haven't got enough rest. And instead of listening to our body's cues, we drink coffee, right? And try to override our body's cue to say, maybe you should sleep, like you should go to bed earlier. Maybe you should sleep longer. Or the other thing is you have established an unrealistic idea of what your schedule should look like for the day. And maybe you need to pare down your schedule so that your schedule is sustainable for your mind, body, and spirit. And you don't have to force drive your body to push through a day that isn't realistic for one person, right? And I know we exist in a world where we do the most, but the most isn't sustainable. Because if it was sustainable, we shouldn't have to have things like coffee to push us through. The third thing that might be why we need coffee is because we're not necessarily eating the food to provide us with the energy that we need to make it through the day. We might have a realistic schedule, right? We might be getting enough sleep, but we're not eating the right food. And food is our fuel. And so when we drink coffee, we override our body saying like, hey, I need to do a self-check. What's going on? What do I need? What's happening here that I need to adjust so that I feel good throughout the day? And so that's my take on coffee. And again, also coffee is super acidic. And for those of you who suffer from anemia, coffee is actually not your friend. It strips your body of iron. So if you're drinking it in excess, it's like you're putting in iron to take it out. So week 1 is, that's the part that no one ever talks about. Coffee strips your body of iron. Look, Gigi's like, what? so 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 there are coffee alternatives, and it's not to say that you can't have caffeine, but I would rather you drink the coffee alternatives that are herbs and mushrooms that are supporting your body to be the best that it can be, then you, instead of you drinking something in excess that isn't allowing you to listen to your cues, that's overriding the cues that are supposed to help you make better decisions for yourself, right? So for week 2, that's when we switch from this, we have the smoothie, but then we change our dinner. And that's the week that we're also vegan. So we're going to have our last set of, if we're omnivores, we're going to have our last meals with meat this first week, and that second week we're going to be completely vegan, no dairy, no meat, and we are going to really start to feel a huge difference. Typically in that first week, people feel a huge difference with the smoothie, and then on that third week, we'll be completely raw, 100% raw. But guess what? We provide meal plans, we provide shopping lists. We're going to support you in the journey so that you don't feel like you're alone. And throughout this, and then we have herbs that will be mailing out to you that you can take to support you on this energy. So on this journey, like one of the things that I send out is our incredible bulk, which is our super green powder, which is going to give you energy you need to make it through the day, but it's also healing and detoxifying at the same time. We have our herbal blend that is going to help to tone the kidneys and support the liver and restoring itself, but it's also going to help you cleanse as well. And then we have our Triphala, which is an Ayurvedic blend that supports cleansing out the colon. And so those are some of the herbs that should be mailed out to you as well for the summer reset. Tomorrow's day one. Day one is really simple. Buy your supplies and take your pictures and prepare for Thursday to start doing your smoothies and things like that. So day one is never a day that's super overwhelming. Day one is like, okay, what do I need to order to get myself ready? What things do I need to put in place? And it's typically the day that we say set an intention. What is the thing that's going to hold space for you during this time? So when we do this process, it's not just a process of cleansing and detoxifying our body, we're also doing that spiritually and emotionally. And a lot of things start to show up during that time. And, you know, oftentimes we feel so much better on the other side. So are there any last questions with respect to the 21-day reset, fasting, detoxification, or anything of that nature? Okay, let me check the chat. Okay, so this is a group process. Every week we're gonna have a call, we're gonna check in, we're gonna see how we're doing, we're gonna say our wins, we're gonna talk about our growth edges, we're not gonna call them challenges or our faux pas. We have some growth edges that we're working through. And so in between these sessions, we talk to each other. We support each other and we talk to each other as well. So I'm really excited for those of you who are joining the journey or those of you who are figuring out what your journey is with detoxification and fasting. But I just want you to know that it's not an invalid process, because I see so much rhetoric right now online that people are saying, oh, your body does it on its own. Don't listen to these people. They don't know what they're talking about. But I'm here to tell you, I know people who have reversed diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, disease, infertility. These are things that I have people, and so I'm going to preface this with, if you're not trying to get pregnant, you should not, I shouldn't say that. If you're not trying to get pregnant, you should do your family planning. But because typically when people do this cleanse detox, they get pregnant afterwards. I've had clients who are like, Oh my God, Nzinga, you didn't lie. I'm pregnant. So if that is something that you are trying to do, you're preparing for a child to come forth. This cleanse, detox, and fast is one of the ways that even if you don't do it with me, if you're preparing to birth, you and your partner should do a detox and cleanse together to prepare your body and to make sure that the egg and sperm that connect is the most viable egg and sperm that connects. All right. Any last questions before I leave? Okay, it was great seeing everyone. I hope to see some of you next week.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
How do you combat the like when you're in the process and then you want to eat potato chips? Like, how do you
we typically talk about that next week.
Okay,
I can talk about that this
fine.
week. No, we can talk.
I can
talk
wait
about
till
it
next week.
Well, the first week is easier. So one, get rid of the temptation, so it's not there.
Yeah, that's been helpful. Yes.
Yes. One, two, find alternatives that are healthier. So sometimes it's better to have an alternative or just a little, as opposed to not having anything at all, because that craving is going to drive you insane, right? So as you're moving towards a better version of yourself, a more sustainable practice, okay, and Zinga, I want some fries. That's like that. Fries are my thing, right?
Right.
It's like, man, I want some French fries. Okay, I'm not gonna get extra large. I'm gonna have a couple of fries. I'm gonna get rid of the other fries, and then maybe I'll have a salad with that, right? Or drink some water. But I'm not gonna beat myself up. When we get into that space of beating ourselves up, then we give up, because like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Like I'm not doing what I said I'm gonna do. So since I didn't do it, I'm just gonna give up. And that's where I don't want people to do that. Like, dust yourself off and try again. And no one has this journey perfectly. I remember having a juice fast where I was drinking juice, I was doing good, and then I went to Whole Foods to get some more ingredients, and I saw that vegan chocolate cookie, and I was just like, we'll have my vegan chocolate cookie. I had one vegan chocolate cookie, and then I kept moving forward with my fast, right? Did it feel good? No, it didn't feel good.
Right.
And that kind of, and usually the not feeling good kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to do that again. I had a client who was doing this program a few years ago. Oh gosh, it's so funny, because I went out of town. Like, we did meal preparation together, where I came to his home and we made a lot of the foods that he was going to have for that time period. And then I checked in with him the next week. He's like, yeah, I did good. But there was a day I needed some rice and peas. I had my rice and peas, and then from that point on, I was good. So I'm sharing that to say,
sound kind of vegan to me. That's it.
Rice
Like, you eat a lot of rice and peas.
Huh? So he had his rice and peas. He was completely raw. He was segueing in. He had his rice and peas, and once he had his rice and peas, he was like, okay, got over that. Not doing that for the rest of this program. I'm done. So I think the conversation is, how do you satiate what's going on while trying to meet these goals, right? And 90%, 80%, 70% is still passing.
Yeah, because it's a process.
It's a process.
So
it's still
we're
passing.
going to do this for 30 days? Is that
21 days?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, 21 days. Now there's a bonus week where you can do a juice fast if you want, or you can do a second week of raw. But it's 21 days.
And we start tomorrow?
Yes.
But so I'll log off here, sign up, and then what happens for us tomorrow?
you're gonna get an email as soon as you
I'll
sign
get
up,
information about what I'm supposed
and
to
then
do.
yes,
Okay.
correct, yes.
Okay. I'm excited.
I'm
Thank
excited.
you, Gigi.
And then Paula, do you have any questions? Paula's been doing this. Man, Paula's like an OG now. Paula, I need a video testimony. So again, we're going to become family. We're going to know things about, I'm going to be your poop whisperer. I'm going to be checking in to make sure you're having your bowel movement. And next week when we have our check-in call, same time, same place, we're going to talk about those cravings a little bit more. Because oftentimes those cravings are telling us a bit more about our emotions. And they're also indicators of some things that we might need to work on emotionally and relationship-wise. So I'll see you all next week, same time, same place. If you have any other questions, just send us an email at info@yesbaby.com.
Okay, so when I sign up today, what
You'll get an
happens
email
tomorrow? I get an email because I need to be ready for tomorrow morning. Like, what am I supposed to
So
do?
tomorrow, the only thing you're responsible for doing is buying your ingredients and getting your numbers. So your
Okay.
numbers are taking a picture of yourself, front, back, and side,
Mhm.
measuring your arms, your chest, your waist, your hips, your thighs, and maybe even your calf.
Okay.
If you have any variability with your blood pressure and that's something you're paying attention to, taking your blood pressure. If you are pre-diabetic and diabetic and you're looking at your insulin, you're going to take that number, those numbers as well. And then you're also going to weigh yourself.
Okay.
I prefer to look at my weight, my numbers of like my body and what I look like in pictures, because that can be a better indicator of my achieving something than me getting on the scale. Because that does not always reflect, especially if you're going to be walking, yoga, moving consistently while you do it, which I recommend. If you're doing that as you're losing weight, you're gaining muscle. So that weight change may not look the same. For instance, I always share this story of how I had a client who was on the 30-day challenge. We did 30 days completely raw, but this client was the only person that was also going to hot yoga at the same time. I think she started off as a size 18. At the top of the 30 days, she went down to a size 12. But on the scale, it shows she only lost 5 pounds. Crazy, right? Crazy. So again, the scale doesn't often reflect what's happening. Like I was on this program and I was like, oh, my numbers are increasing. Because sometimes you gain more muscle than you losing fat. And you're looking like, I'm getting bigger, but I can fit in clothes I couldn't fit in before. Right. So that's why those first numbers are important, because at the end of this program, we're going to do those numbers again. And then we're going to do a side by side so that you can see the change. Got it?
Yes, great. Perfect. I just wanted to make sure.
And you'll get a video. There's going to be a video tomorrow, like, hey, it's day 1. These are the things that you're going to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Gigi.
All right. It was great seeing you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.